Hey, what's up, guys? Tuki here, back again with another episode of A Nation United, a Rock, Flag, and Eagle. And today, with the new team set, we are ready to go on another season sim. The 2020-2021 season will begin in just a moment. But again, one last look at the new team. Quite a few changes, obviously. We acquired Alex DeBrincat. We signed Casey Mittelstadt. Of course, Jack Hughes has made the team. Jeremy Bracco's been called up. And defensively, Quinn Hughes is good to go. Not to mention the backup goaltending has changed with Jake Ottinger backing up Connor Hellebuyck. If Connor Hellebuyck can be 75% of what he was last year, we're a playoff team. There's no denying that. Okay, maybe the numbers don't quite work out there, but I never said I was great at math. Point being, we have high hopes for this season, whether or not that works out for us, as I need to make sure I set up the scouting here, which I don't think I did, but whether or not that works out for us, time will tell. Oftentimes, when you expect to have a good team, things don't exactly work out the way you plan. Oftentimes, you can have terrible teams and still make the playoffs, which we have seen in numerous series of mine. So as far as what's going to happen here, I'm keeping my expectations in check, but I'm obviously hoping for a very successful season. We made it to the Eastern Conference Final. Can we take that next step? Or will the changes that I've made, will that knock us back down a peg? Will certain players underperform? Obviously, there's a lot of pressure on DeBrincat. This is Besser's first full season with us. And Jack Eichel as well. This is a gigantic season for him. He was our number one overall pick over Johnny Gaudreau. And while Gaudreau's had regular season success, of course, when we went up against the Bruins in the first round, they fell short by a significant margin, and Johnny Gaudreau was really nowhere to be found. But you look at Jack Eichel, and there really hasn't been that much development. He's yet to crack a 90 overall. At this point, I don't believe that he will. That doesn't mean that he's not top-line worthy. That doesn't mean he's a bad player. But can he prove to be that legitimate number one center that we need him to be? Can he be the guy that will allow both DeBrincat and Besser to hopefully be 30-plus goal guys? That is the hope for this season. And then not to mention, Casey Mittelstadt, what is he going to bring with that second line? We have seen what Donato and Sonny Milano can do. That's why we kept them and let go of Anders Lee and Alex Galchenyuk. What can our new center do? You look at that third line and just how young it is. Jack Hughes' rookie season, the risky option of going with Jeremy Bracco over numerous other options. I picked Jeremy Bracco over Kyler Yamamoto. That is not something that I expected to do. But there's something about Bracco, again, something about the way the attributes are set up and the way, just again, the skating, the puck skills. He should be one hell of a playmaker. Was that the right choice? Who knows? Of course, it wasn't really the only option, though. Of course, I could have kept Yamamoto, played him on the third line. I certainly wasn't going to send him back down to the AHL. That's why we traded him, Logan Brown, and numerous others. There are only 3 goaltenders coming out of the U.S. this year. That's a little bit weird. But, of course, we talked about that in the last episode, why we made the changes that we did, why we got rid of so many prospects, not wanting certain guys to go to waste in the minors. But was picking Jeremy Bracco the right decision? Will players like Riley Tufte and Max Jones be all right? Actually, I think Max Jones is a fourth-line guy. I think it's Tufte and Mishmash, that they're the 2 third-line guys that are currently playing on the fourth line. Are they going to deliver? The morale system's not on, but for some reason, I could still see them underperforming to a tremendous extent. For them, it's more about the plus-minus as opposed to point totals. But this season, I mean, much like in every season, at least when we have a competitive team, I'm looking for the top line to be as close to point-per-game players as possible. For the third line, really 30 points at least, closer to 40 is the best. Same thing for the second line. I don't know why I went from first to third line, but second line, 50-ish points would be great. 40 to 50-ish. Third line, 30 to 40-ish. And fourth line, if they could get 20 points, that'd be great. Obviously, though, that's just that's a guideline. It's never going to happen perfectly that way, especially when we have so many offensive threats on defense. The way the sim works, the better your goaltender is, the less scoring you have for some reason. We've talked about numerous times just what an enigma the sim engine is, why it works the way it does, how you can have a 60-plus win team get swept in the first round. It's a mystery, more often than not. But we're about 2 weeks away. I should say we're under 3 weeks away from the deadline. I'm not sure if this game against St. Louis will go through. It will not. You know what? Let's sim up to this Bruins game. We'll sim the next two games against St. Louis and Colorado. It's a shootout loss. We have had a terrible start to the month of February. And against the Colorado Avalanche, we get nothing. Patrick Bykoff is on waivers. We will have to reject that. And we have been off to a terrible start here, losing 5 out of 6 to start the month. That brings us to 30, 22, and 5. The Cleveland Monsters at 26, 23, and 6. They're not exactly on the right track towards being a playoff team. As it stands, we find ourselves in a wild card spot at 65 points. Again, 8 points back of both Washington and Carolina, who both have a game at hand. So we're not exactly where we want to be in terms of competing for that division title, and really in terms of making the playoffs with room to spare. Being a wildcard team wasn't exactly a part of the plan. And Alex DeBrincat struggling this much was also not a part of the plan. 24 points in 57 games. You could argue maybe I should have double-checked the stats sooner. That's embarrassing. Jack Eichel, 43 points in 57 games. I'm okay with that. I'd prefer it to be a tad bit better. 47 points in 57 games for Brock Besser. So you could argue that may be the better way to go, especially too if you believe in player types kind of make stylistic matchups. DeBrincat as a playmaker, Eichel as a two-way, Besser as the sniper might work. The question is, how's that second line looking? Oh my god, okay, yeah, there's no excuse. Ryan Donato, 23 goals. Middlestad's doing well. Sonny Milano, though, 7 goals, 20 assists. I do wonder, with Donato and Middlestat working well together, Eichel and Besser are working well together. I mean, really, that gives us one play. We put Sonny Milano on the top line with Eichel and Besser, and we put DeBrincat with Donato and Middlestat. Otherwise, I'd say, yeah, call up Donato, but he and Middlestat are working very, very well together. I mean, Donato's easily going to break his goal-scoring record for a season. So I think that's what we're going to do for the moment. If Milano doesn't work out on the top line either, we'll swap these two back, and I'll probably change ADB to a playmaker and Eichel to a two-way. But because Eichel's doing all right this season, let's go with that first change. On the third line, Jack Hughes with 21 points, 20 for Paling, and 21 for Bracco. So that's looking good. They're on their way. I mean, again, 30 to 40 points would be nice. So it'd be good if they could pick it up a little bit, but it's all right. And defensively, fourth line wise, and defensively as far as plus minus goes, not a great look from Tufte. Mishmash hasn't been great. Max Jones hasn't been great, but they may be able to turn it around here. You know what? We'll leave it like that. I was thinking of maybe switching it up. Defensively, wow. McAvoy, 7 goals, 25 assists, a plus 27, 29 points, and a plus 24 for Trouba. That top pairing is killing it. The second pairing, Chad Chris is doing well point-wise, but that minus 11 is rough. 10 points for Adam Fox. He's a minus 7. Third pairing, Will Butcher with 9 points. He's a minus 2. And Quinn Hughes with 8 points. He's a minus 3. So that top pairing is taking they're taking all the action as far as defensemen and point totals. It's pretty ridiculous. Connor Hellebuck with a 922 save percentage. Ottinger has struggled in 21 appearances. He has 9 wins, 2 shutouts, and a 2.62 GAA, the 905 save percentage. So the goaltending has been good. It hasn't been unreal. Defensively, our top pairing's been amazing. The other two pairings have struggled a little bit. The fourth line needs to pick it up, at least in terms of that plus minus. And again, plus minus is a real world stat, isn't always the best thing to go off of. But in NHL 18, there's only so many things you can go off of, unfortunately. And I hate to make the comparison. I know a lot of times it's not fair. I get that. But you look at, say, what they do in MLB The Show, where literally any and every advanced stat you could possibly want to see is available for you to see in game. So it's a little bit concerning to me to only have point totals and plus minus as a judge for who is half decent. Like if you were to have that in MLB, where for batters it's just okay, here's your home runs and RBIs. You don't get their batting average. Okay, maybe you get their batting average, but on base, slugging, like it's incomplete. You need more to go off of to really determine how well a player is doing. But for the moment, I'll at least say plus minus. I'd like to see that improve for our fourth line as we have arrived on deadline day. It'll be March 2nd here. We have a 35, 23, and 5 record after picking it up a little bit here in the last half of the month. 5 wins before losing to the Tampa Bay Lightning. And when it comes to any possible trades, I don't see it happening. I think we're good to go. I might take a look at point totals just to see if anybody we happen to get rid of is doing well. Although, speaking of doing well, we have closed the gap. Even in points with Carolina, only 5 points back. It's a pretty close race. The good news, looking at the standings, is that the New York Islanders are in that second wildcard spot, and we are 7 points ahead. They do have a game at hand, though. That's good news that the second wildcard spot's in the Metro. It's easier to kind of keep track of what's going on. Brock Besser is currently leading our team in points. I do want to take a look, though, around the league. So let's see here. Laine doing incredibly well in Ottawa. Nico Hischier, Kovalchuk, Kucherov. I do wonder, how far would I have to scroll down? Anders Lee, who is apparently playing in Rochester right now? What? So he has 57 points in 60 games, but he's currently on Rochester. I'm not even going to ask. Let's just move on. Let's just move on. I won't even try to understand that. I won't bother. Clayton Keller's even in points with Brock Besser. Jesus, I can't speak. And oh boy, Galchenyuk also even in points with Brock Besser. That hurts, but we don't know who he's playing with. But what we do know, we don't know who he's playing with Edmonton, but we do know how well he did here. The answer was just kind of okay, as Johnny Gaudreau has 47 points. So Gaudreau has 26 goals to this point. I can't help but wonder, even though a lot of our negotiating pieces are currently gone, let's take a look around the league. For example, Johnny Gaudreau, they don't want to trade him. Let's take a look at Dallas. Austin Matthews isn't going anywhere. Edmonton with Galchenyuk. I can't imagine who he's on the line with. Fiala, maybe? They have Kyle Yamamoto as well. Good old Kyler Yamamoto. Hasn't played much. All right, who else was there? Minnesota had Kyle Connor, 35 points this season. And we had Philadelphia for Clayton Keller. I was hoping by some miracle he'd be on the trade block. I knew it wasn't going to happen, right? I knew it wasn't going to be a thing, but I had to hope by some miracle he was. Let's take a look one more time at our point totals. I want to specifically see how ADB has done over the past 2 weeks and whether or not it's looking better. Sonny Milano at 9 goals, 22 assists. DeBrincat at 30 points now. So actually, I feel like they've done quite well in those new roles. Jeremy Bracco, 25 points. I think we're good. We are going to keep the team the same. If this team can't get it done, then really we have no other options. Although, one more thing. Let me look at the AHL, since we do have some prospects there of concern, including Farabee, who is doing incredibly well and is up to a fourth line spot. And defensively, I mean, he's good enough to play on the fourth line. So I'm thinking he'll be making the team next season or he'll be traded. Oliver Wahlstrom doing incredibly well. Sooner rather than later, he's going to be a depth forward, much like Bracco, where he's not good enough for the top six, but he still, the overall doesn't match up to what it needs to be a third-line scoring forward. It's kind of weird the way it works, but Wahlstrom, sooner rather than later, I mean, he might outright take Jeremy Bracco's spot. And Rintoul, one of the other guys that we picked up, is doing okay. He's more of a playmaker on that line. Now, Nolan Foote, again, we had this discussion previously with certain players that are American by birth, but technically, well, Canadian, but were born in America. For Nolan Foote, his nationality really should be Canada, but he was born in the States. He plays for Team Canada. So what I'll do, and again, we've had this discussion earlier, what I'll probably do is just not use Nolan Foote. I'll wait for somebody to come out of the draft that we can trade him for. It's a massive pain in the ass. I don't know. It'd be nice if there was a different way for EA to list it, but what they do with every creative player is just, okay, where were they born? All right, he was born in Colorado because that's where his dad played. He might have been born in Columbus. I don't know. But yeah, he was born near Denver, so American listed. It's like, no, he's Canadian. He plays for that team. But again, they don't have a way to handle dual nationalities. Anyway, we are beyond deadline day as we venture into the great unknown with a horrible start. We do get a win against Carolina and Detroit, another win against St. Louis. Every game matters at this point as we have, out of nowhere, won 5 in a row after losing 3 straight. That brings us up to 40 wins on the season. Let's sim another week. We have 3 games, Pittsburgh, Toronto, and Philadelphia yet again. It's a 5-0 win, a 4-2 win, and a 7-1 loss. So we beat Philly 7-0 and then lost to them 7-1. 43 wins on the year for us. What's the playoff picture looking like? And we are right where I wanted to be. 2 points back of the Flyers. Wow, we beat the Flyers 7-0, and they were the top team in the division. It's a very close race, though. Even Washington's still in it. But we have a chance to, one way or another, secure home ice advantage in the first round. But it's going to be tough. And again, both wildcard spots belong to this division. So barring a terrible collapse, we are yet again a playoff team. Now it's just a matter of fighting for seeding, as we have a grand total of 7 games left. Carolina, which is a tough game. Ottawa, somewhat of a tough game. Philly's a very tough game. Toronto's a tough game. The Devils, that needs to be a win. Against the Rangers, that's still somewhat of a tough game. And against the Bruins, that needs to be a win. It's not the easiest schedule down the stretch. Let's sim a week. The first 4 games of this 7-game stretch to end the year. We start off with a 3-2 win against Carolina, a 4-1 loss to Ottawa, a 3-0 loss to Philly. We really need to beat Toronto here, and we do not, but we pick up a pity point. 1-2-1 over those 4 games. Definitely not what we were looking for. That drops us into 3rd place. We're 3 points back of the Flyers. They have a game at hand. I would say home ice advantage is gone. We have clinched a playoff spot, which is nice, of course. But we are going to need that home ice advantage against Carolina. Again, they beat us last year. I really don't want to go into a series against the Hurricanes having to play on the road. That said, a matchup with Carolina isn't exactly secure. We need to get the wins here. Can we beat the Devils in Game 80? No, we cannot. So we continue to be a horrifically streaky team, as we have lost 4 straight games, and 4 out of our last 5. That brings us to these final 2 games against New York and Boston. Can we still secure? No, we cannot. We're done. The Hurricanes only need 1 point. So right now, we're looking at the top wildcard spot, or we're looking at playing more than likely Carolina on the road in the first round. If we take a look at the divisions, the Buffalo Sabres with 106 points. As it stands, if everything stays the same, we're playing Philadelphia in the first round. 2 wins, and we control our fate and play Carolina. Either way, not an ideal setup. We did very well in the middle parts of the season to string together wins. So we lose to the Rangers. We have lost 5 straight games down the stretch. Not what you want to see when you're heading towards the postseason. Not at all, and that pretty much clinches it. We can still jump Washington. I can't imagine that we will. Philadelphia's won the division. Let's just sim this game against Boston. It should be a win. I can't see why it wouldn't be. Please tell me we can get the win here. And thankfully, it took us until the shootout to do it, but we win our last game of the season. That brings our record to 45, 30, and 7. Who are we playing in the first round? Will it be Philadelphia or will it be Carolina? It will be... We're not sure yet. We need to sim one more day. Will the Capitals get the win on the last day of the season? All they need is a point, and they do not get it. Washington loses their final game of the season. The Hurricanes ended up tying the Flyers. Son of a bitch, EA. Just here. If I hit the right stick, can you stop the auto-scrolling at that point? Let it auto-scroll until I interfere, and then let me take over. I know that's a very, very minor complaint, but it's a quality of life thing, man. Please, can we make that change? Of course, there are changes I want to see with this game, top to bottom. That's one of them. Anyway, at this menu, at this screen, I don't have to worry about it. Carolina tied Philly in points. The overtime losses, the regulation plus overtime wins came into effect. It's a rematch of last year's Eastern Conference Final. We will be taking on the Hurricanes, thanks to Washington losing their final game of the season. We'll take a look at the Atlantic. The Sabres, Panthers, and Leafs all make the playoffs. In the Western Conference, starting off with the Central, St. Louis, Colorado, and Chicago. Dallas missed out by a point, which means we have 5 teams in the Pacific: LA, Vancouver, Arizona, Calgary, and the San Jose Sharks. So, let's take a look here. For goals for per game, we were 3rd in the league. Only 2 teams finished above 3 goals a game, Vancouver and Buffalo. We were in 3rd. Goals against per game was middle of the pack, which I'm quite disappointed in. Actually, not even middle of the pack. Was it? Yeah, okay, it was middle of the pack. It was a higher number. A 257 goals against per game average. Not what I was wanting to see, admittedly. The power play percentage, I don't see us listed there yet. We'll go to the higher marks, and it was about average, a 19.4 power play percentage. However, we're going up against the number 1 power play in the league from the Hurricanes, a 27.6 average. That is insane. Here's perhaps a crucial note. The Hurricanes didn't have a single shorthanded goal against. We had 7, the highest in the league. So we have a deadly counterattack. As far as the penalty kill goes, you saw we were at a 78%. Our penalty kill needs work, 78.5%, 6th lowest in the league. So special teams has been an interesting number for us. We have a solid home record. The road record slipped up a little bit, but again, 4-4-2 heading into these playoffs. In the AHL, I simply want to take a look if we made it, and the answer is no. We missed out by a single point. So that is a little bit devastating to have some prospects, some highly valuable prospects to our organization, not have the opportunity, for them to not have the opportunity to play in the postseason. But them's the breaks, unfortunately. So let's take a look at the stats here. So Sonny Milano, we ended up playing him on the second line. He finishes with 13 points and 13 goals, 29 assists, 42 points, 5 less than last year. So that'll be a big question for us heading into the postseason is what do we look to do with the top 6? But let's take a look at the rest of the stats. Jack Eichel finishes with a new career high, at least in this run, actually just in general, a new career high of 68 points, 22 goals, 46 helpers, a +6, so he and Besser worked very well together. Speaking of Besser, 37 goals, 35 assists. Again, I like our top-line guys, ideally to be as close to a point a game as possible. Besser did very well. Not a new career high, but decent numbers, especially considering the original top line didn't exactly work out. Somebody didn't carry their weight. However, DeBrincat did finish with at least decent numbers compared to what he was on pace for, 18 goals and 26 assists. Now, here's the thing. The thought of moving DeBrincat, if we're that unhappy with him, it could happen, and it could happen as soon as the draft if a certain goaltender really disappointed me in terms of progression and numbers this season. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. We are still going to have to decide the line combos for the playoffs, but maybe ADB's future in Columbus is in doubt. His center on that line was Casey Mittelstadt, who had one hell of a debut season, setting a new career high in goals and in points. 26 goals, 33 assists, 59 points. A great season. Great season for Casey Mittelstadt. He worked so well with Ryan Donato, who also set a new career high in goals and points, 28-26 for 54 points total. So that's what I'm thinking for the top. Here's what I'm thinking for the top six, right? We know that Donato and Mittelstadt work incredibly well together. Eichel and Besser, for whatever reason, work pretty well together. Milano or DeBrincat? Who plays on the top line? Not to mention, say we play DeBrincat on the top line. Eichel, as a playmaker, he's definitely up there. My thought is, though, do we change Eichel to a two-way? Which sounds crazy, but we know that two ways can still put up points. And maybe change ADB over to a playmaker. Or do we just give DeBrincat the chance on the top line yet again? What do you guys think? DeBrincat, Milano, what do we do with the top six? The bottom six is pretty much locked in. Jack Hughes finishes with 30 points in his rookie season, in the regular season, which I'm okay with. Again, for the third line, I like 30 points to be the minimum. He's playing with some very talented players offensively, but when you look at his attributes, he's not exactly great at anything just yet. He's got good wheels, the offensive awareness is nice, the shot, the puck skills, that's still coming along. 30 points for a 19-year-old in this league, I will take it. His center, Ryan Poehling, 27 points. Admittedly, that was a little bit disappointing, and you can say, well, look at what some of your members of the top six did, what your top pairing defenseman probably did. There's not enough points to go around. That may be fair. That's a fair argument, especially too when our goaltending, at least in theory, should be great. And how the sim works, like we talked about, with a little bit of balancing in terms of if you have a great goaltender, your numbers seem to be down, but if you have a bad goaltender, your goal-scoring numbers just seem to be higher. Still, for Poehling, I'm a little bit disappointed. He could have been better, but it wasn't a terrible season for him. And Jeremy Bracco, admittedly, a little bit disappointed, but it's not bad. 29 points is okay on the third line. My biggest concern is the fact that, while yes, it's another skill line, and defensively it's not great. Hughes is okay, Poehling's pretty good. I don't know, I was expecting a little bit more. And that brings us to the fourth line. Riley Tufte, only 16 points and a minus 10. I'm disappointed. Same thing for Mishmash. A little bit disappointed. And Max Jones. I'm disappointed. And again, Jones is actually the fourth line guy. The bottom six can do better. We had a good season, but there's no doubt that Milano, DeBrincat, and really I'd say all the members of the bottom six could do better. I'm happy with Jack Hughes' number, considering he was a rookie, but it could have been better. But we will get to the defense just to try and prove that point. And Charlie McAvoy had a great season. 12 goals, which is not a new career high. Actually, he had 13 goals 2 years ago. But 51 points in a career high, plus 37 for him. 11 of those points came on the power play. A great season for him, and nearly equally as good of a season for Trouba with 42 points. He put up 46 last year, but a career high 10 points came on the power play. So that top pairing is fantastic. Chad Chris offensively was great. 39 points, but a minus 14. a new career high in points, though he had 13 in his rookie year last year, up to 39 in his second season. Of course, he was on the pairing with Adam Fox, who put up 16 points. That is also a career high. He played 19 games last year and had 1 point. So point production-wise, we're solid. Plus-minus-wise, it's a little bit concerning. Will Butcher with 13 points. Again, he takes a little bit of a backseat role for Chris and Fox to hopefully develop. It's his last year on his contract. We will look to re-sign him and then hopefully trade him. And then Quinn Hughes, only 10 points and a -7. The key thing, he took 118 shots and only one of them went in. What are the odds of that? I mean, you see here, 48 shots for Butcher, again, shooting 2.1%, but a .8 for Hughes. A 1.0 for Fox, 192 shots, 2 goals. Again, 207 shots for Chris. Maybe this, I mean, again, it does make sense. I'm not disputing that when you have more offensive defensemen, that some of your forwards might not be seeing enough of the puck. But, man, 207 shots, a 2.9 save, a 2.9 shooting percentage. Ridiculous. Trouba at a 5.8. McAvoy was at an 8.8. Which actually brings me back to this. Milano did shoot 11.5%. 10.8 for Eichel. 17.7. I do wonder, where do we rank among shots? Because look at how many of these guys took. I mean, Jesus. I should be able to check that, right? At least in terms of where we rank with individuals being towards the top of the list for most shots taken. Jake Ottinger. I said it was a risk keeping him, but I wanted to see if he would develop. 30 appearances this year, 13 wins, 3 shutouts, a .905 save percentage, and a .267 GAA. Still an 80 overall. It's the last year on his contract. There is a very good chance that I package Ottinger with potentially DeBrincat if he disappoints in the playoffs, and maybe we go again and try to get Clayton Keller. Connor Hellebuck as well didn't quite perform the way I wanted him to. It was good enough to get us to the playoffs. 56 appearances, 32 wins, a .919 save percentage, .233 GAA, and 7 shutouts, but compared to his numbers last year, it was disappointing. If he can come close to that same effort, though, in the playoffs that he had last year, we could be looking pretty damn good. Hayden Hockey had a good season, but it wasn't enough to carry Cleveland to the playoffs. Again, Farabee did well. Wallstrom, the leading scorer, killed it. I'm very disappointed that this team couldn't get a playoff berth, but there are definitely progressions. There are overall changes, and I'm intrigued again. I won't take a look at them until the end of the playoffs because those extra changes can be made. But it was a decent season for them. It's a shame that they're going to be missing out on postseason hockey. So again, heading into next episode, heading into the playoffs, what do we do with that top line? Who plays on the wing? Do we keep the way it is? Just have them play where they have been playing for the last half of the season? What do you guys think? As well, we will look to re-sign some players as Patrick Laine led the league in points. In terms of goal scoring, it was Kovalchuk. He and Sagan were the only two to put up more than 40 goals. But my question, I guess in terms of plus-minus, Steven Santini led the way. That is shocking. McAvoy and Trouba were second. The penalty minute king, for the hell of it, Jake Dotchin. No surprise there. Power play points, 32 for Laine. Jesus. That's a ridiculous amount. Shorthanded goals, I thought we'd have the leader, but apparently not. Besser was up there with 3. Game-winning goals, 10 for Besser. Here we go, the shots. So Kovalchuk, okay, we had quite a few that put up, there were a couple, how to phrase this. 3 people were over 300. Jost was just short. Don't know why I'm stumbling with my words, but that means it's definitely time to call it an episode. Although, for the hell of it, the Iron Man King, was Brent Burns. The most face-offs, one happened to be won by Leon Draisaitl. The hit king was Anze Kopitar. The block shot king was Barry and Letang, both at 1-44. Most giveaways belonged to Jake Dotchin. The most takeaways, Ryan O'Reilly. So look for him to win the Selke, because that was a ridiculous margin between him and Kopitar. The fight king was Jake Dotchin. As far as the rookie race, it's going to be Jonathan Dahlin with 51 points, Heppo Niemi, Robert Thomas, and Jesse Gabrielle up there as well. So with all of that covered, it was a very big season for us. We still have question marks in both our immediate future and just in the future in general as far as who stays on this team and who goes. What do you guys think we should do with the lines? Also, as far as expiring contracts go, because it is going to be a pretty big offseason for us, yeah, we have work to do, especially when Trouba and Mittelstadt don't want to re-sign, which could be potentially devastating. So we have our work cut out for us. That's all I can say. The next episode or two should be pretty damn interesting in terms of how well I can keep all of this together. Hopefully, though, tried to hold off on that. That didn't work. Hopefully, so I'm just trying to recover. We can find success in this postseason run before things potentially come crashing down. Just tough to say what the money situation is going to look like. That said, that'll do it for this one. The postseason run begins in the next episode. Again, it is our Stanley Cup Eastern Conference final rematch against the Carolina Hurricanes in round 1. Can we overcome that threat? Can we overcome that challenge, the obstacle? We'll find out. For now, I don't have much of an outro, so thank you for the support as always. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, you know what you can do to further support this video on this channel. I am slurring all my words. Why can I not speak? I have no idea. So with that said, thank you for watching. I'll catch you next time.